So just like the other documents that we've already looked at this year, when we analyze the preamble, when we analyze any document, we're going to use this outside-in method. And what it really tells you to do is don't just dive in and start reading the main text until you can kind of get as much understanding as you can beforehand. And we'll help you maybe clarify what it's about. Start at the top, the bottom, look for the title or the subtitle. Is there an author's name given? Is there a date? Is there a source or publication? Does it say when or where it was written? Is there a photo? Is there a caption? Check the margins. Only after you've kind of gone through this checklist and done those things do I want you to dive into the main document itself. So here we've got our copy of the preamble. And as always, anytime we do something like this, I want you to have ready a good highlighter and a pen or a pencil, something good that you're comfortable writing with. Okay, so using the outside-in method, we see that we actually don't have too much to go on in this document. We know that it's called the preamble. It's the preamble to the Constitution of the United States. We don't really see too much else at the top or in the margins or at the bottom. So I'm going to kind of help us out with that a little bit. So the word preamble, it just means kind of like, think of it as like an introduction or a preliminary statement. So this is something that comes at the beginning, something that comes before the main body of the Constitution, before all the different articles, and of course then before the Bill of Rights. So it's the preamble to the U.S. Constitution. And the author's name is not given, but we do in fact know who wrote the preamble. The preamble, and actually much of the Constitution itself, was written by a man from New York who participated heavily in the Constitutional Convention, and his name was Governor Morris. That was his name. Governor was not his title. He wasn't the governor of New York or anything like that. Governor was his name. And so historians today pretty much believe that he wrote most of the Constitution down. It wasn't all his idea, but he was the one that actually did the writing. And he may have collaborated with a few other people on the preamble, but that he definitely was the author of the preamble. And we do actually know the date. We know that this was written in 1787. That's when the Constitution was written and then voted on by the members at the convention. One thing about the preamble is it was never debated or discussed or amended by the Constitutional Convention as a whole. It was something that was kind of an afterthought, and they just added it on later and tacked it on, even though it's actually the beginning of the document. It is the first thing that we see. So let's kind of take a look at it now. See that it's pretty short. It's really just, one paragraph. And the first three words that you see are really quite remarkable. And of course, those words are "we the people." It starts off by saying, "we the people of the United States." Now, why is that such a big deal? Well, when this was written back in 1787, most countries were some sort of monarchy, ruled by a king, an emperor, a queen, a duke, a duchess, something like that, a prince or princess. So monarchies were still the dominant form of government throughout the world. And if this had been written by a monarchy, right, a king would say, "I the king," if he was going to make a constitution at all, which a lot of kings wouldn't even have done. But a king would say, "I the king," or "I the emperor," or if it were a dictatorship, "I the dictator," or if it were a country where only the wealthy people ruled, like an oligarchy, it would say, "we the rich." Now, it doesn't say that, of course. The Constitution begins, "we the people." So this reinforces in the first three words the idea that American government is of the people, by the people, and for the people. It's not based on any sort of, emperor system or monarchy or any dictatorship. It's a people's government. Now, who the people were in 1787, I'll get back to in a few minutes, because it might not mean exactly who you think it means. But anyway, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union. So in a way, this seems like an oxymoron. How can you have something that's more than perfect? Something's either perfect or it's not. Okay? And so union, this was the word that they used to describe the collection of states, right? They were a union of states. The original 13 states. What they may have meant by more perfect is, remember that the Constitution is not their first attempt at a government, it's their second attempt at a government. We had something before called the Articles of Confederation. Those lasted for about 7 years, and they eventually just kind of abandoned those and gave them up. They weren't working well enough. So what they're kind of saying is, we're trying again. We're trying to do something that's even better than our first democratic government. We're trying to make a more perfect union. We know that we'll never really achieve perfection, but we are going to try. We are going to make an effort to make the best government that we can of these states. And so then there comes a list of, well, what is this perfect union going to look like? How will we know when we see it? Well, we want to establish justice. And justice is fairness. A good sense of right and wrong. All right, so that's something that they want to do. They want to establish justice. Ensure domestic tranquility. Those are some big words, kind of some fancy words. Ensure domestic tranquility. So ensure means to promise or to protect. This is something that we want to guarantee. Domestic. So the word domestic just means things happening at home, like in your house or in your own country. And the word tranquility means peace. So we want to protect peace at home. We want to ensure or promise peace inside our own country. That's domestic tranquility. We are also going to provide for the common defense. So we're going to make sure that we are protected. We're going to make sure that we are defended. The Articles of Confederation had no sort of army, no national army whatsoever. And that was probably a weakness of the Articles of Confederation. So we're going to make sure that we are protected from foreign enemies or even domestic enemies. Promote the general welfare. Now this one is kind of vague and it's kind of general. It really just means we want to make sure that the people have a fair chance, the people are well off, the people have, you could say a mail service, they have roads, they have food, they have peace, they have health. So that's just a way of saying general welfare. The people will be, they're going to be happy, they're going to be good, they're going to be well off. And then they say we're going to secure the blessings of liberty. Okay? So think of things like freedom, individual rights, okay? Those would be some things that they would have said are the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. So you can figure out what this means, right? They want all these things for themselves, but they want it for their posterity. So if you look at the word posterity, you see that the word is, the beginning is post, and post means something that comes after. So they want all of these things and these blessings of liberty. They want them for themselves, and they want them for the people that come after, their children, their grandchildren, their great-grandchildren, all the generations that are going to come after. Okay, that's what they mean by this. We want this Constitution to go on and to be in effect for many generations to come. Then they say, we do ordain and establish. So ordain kind of means like we're going to give this our blessing. And establish, of course, means to put into effect. This Constitution for the United States of America. Okay, so it's really very short. It's not that long. Again, I think the most important words here are we the people. And we look at this today and we think this is great, right? This is a people's government. Now, if we look a little bit more critically at this, and you keep in mind that this was written in 1787, well, who were the people? Well, in 1787, we still had legal slavery. So the people did not include anyone that was enslaved. They would not have been included. It did not include any native people. They were not included. They were not invited to the Constitutional Convention. It certainly did not include women. Women had very few rights at the time. They certainly didn't have the right to vote. So even though we look at this today as a point of pride, and it should be, we have to remember that at the time in 1787, we the people didn't mean all the people. It really meant the people in power, white males at the time. And that's the preamble to the Constitution.